Hey guys, so as promised, I've done a part 2 to making a successful refugee claim, and this video is going to focus on your basis of claim narrative. So your basis of claim narrative is the most important document in the refugee determination process. Your testimony that you give during your hearing is based on what you've put in your basis of claim narrative. So for short, it's also called your BOC, basis of claim, BOC, BOC. So your BOC contains your identity or membership in a particular social group that is subject to persecution. It also contains the description of the persecution you experienced or fear that you will experience if you return to your home country. It identifies who your agent of persecution is or are. It should highlight your inability to access state protection from your persecutors or why you didn't try or were afraid to access state protection. Your BOC narrative should also state why you have no in-flight alternatives and need the protection of Canada. So guys, I've just created a sample BOC narrative. The scenario is completely hypothetical, but it's going to show you the type of information you need to include and where you need to include it. So here is a BOC narrative of refugee claimant Jane Doe. My name is Jane Doe. I'm a young woman from Caledonia of the Hermetic faith. I do not have citizenship in any other country, and I fear being circumcised and forced into an arranged marriage with a man several years older than me, John Doe, who is also my cousin. Caledonia offers me no state protection, and I am not safe anywhere in the country. The official religion of Caledonia is the Hermetic faith, which is a religion that believes in forced arranged marriages and female circumcision. I was born February 5th, 2001 in Leonia, which is the capital. I was born into the Hermetic faith, which is also the faith of my parents, Jan and James Doe. However, I was not circumcised as a baby because my father, James Doe, did not believe in female circumcision and wanted me to be educated even though that is not usual. They say this is because he was influenced by missionaries. I am the only girl out of 4 other siblings. Like my brothers, I was given primary and secondary education at an English-speaking school started by missionaries. I graduated at the top of my class and was intending to go to university to pursue medical studies. During my life growing up in Caledonia, I was often teased and insulted by members of my community because I was not circumcised, and I was also not pledged in marriage, which is usually done by the age of 8 years old. My cousins and other relatives would say derogatory things because this was not usual, and all of my female relatives are circumcised, including my mother, but I continued with my plans to pursue my studies. Last year, on October 25th, 2018, my father passed away when he succumbed to pancreatic cancer. He was buried 1 week later. He was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer 3 years before in 2015. 2 months after my father's funeral, I was informed by my mother that I would not be going to university as I had hoped, and I would be marrying my second cousin on my father's side, John Doe, who is 12 years older than me. I was also informed that my cousin John Doe thinks it is shameful to marry a woman who is not circumcised. So the agreement is that I will undergo circumcision to purify me and that I will then marry John Doe. I told my mother that I did not want to get married and that I wanted to go to university, but my mother and relatives on my father's side said I would bring shame on the family. My uncle Jim Doe, who is my father's brother, also said he would rather I be dead than bring dishonor on the family. I then realized that with my father no longer alive, I would be forced to undergo circumcision and marry John Doe. I was fearful of my family and went to the police and told them that my family was planning on marrying me to my cousin, but they told me they don't interfere with family decisions and that I should listen to my family because they know what is best for me. I didn't know who else could help me, and I did not have any money. Finally, I went to one of my teachers at the missionary school, and my math teacher, Sarah Smith, who was also helping me with my application to university, said she would help me leave the country and make a refugee claim in Canada. I realized it would be necessary to leave the country because the Hermetic faith is prevalent throughout the entire country. The religious leaders also have ties to the government and political party members, and many of the laws that are made to govern the country are also based on the Hermetic faith holy laws. My family is also very large. My father has several siblings that live throughout Caledonia who are very traditional in the Hermetic faith. My mother's family is also quite large, and because of my cousin John Doe's wealth, it was planned on being a very large wedding with several community leaders invited as guests and who know about our engagement. Wherever I go in Caledonia, I would face the threat of family members with no protection from the law. I therefore decided to do what my teacher Sarah Smith was suggesting. Mrs. Smith, my teacher, said she would help me apply to another university in Canada and get me a student visa, and instructed me that I should pretend that I have accepted my family's arrangement to marry in July of 2019, which is a month of my father's birthday, in honor of my father. I did as my teacher instructed, and my family agreed, which gave my teacher enough time to apply for my Canadian visa. I also asked my mother to delay the circumcision ceremony until June, and she agreed. In the meantime, my teacher helped me apply for my visa, which I successfully got, and she also bought my plane ticket. On May 7th, 2019, I fled the country on a straight flight to Pearson International Airport in Toronto. I seek the protection of Canada. So guys, this is a pretty open and shut case, but we're going to look at the elements of this narrative and how it contains all the information it needs to support the claim. So in the first paragraph, we see that it shows the particular social group Jane Doe belongs to, what country she's coming from, the fact that she has no other citizenship, the fact that the state is not offering her protection, and 5, the kind of persecution Jane Doe is facing. The second paragraph of the narrative establishes who Jane Doe is. It shows what social group she belongs to, how long she's been a part of the social group, when she became a part of the social group. The third paragraph or section shows the persecution or threat of persecution she was facing. So it shows who the person or institution or state authority is that is persecuting Jane Doe, what they are planning to do, for example, torture, imprison, harass. In this case, they're planning on circumcising her, and an arranged marriage to her cousin, who is several years older than her. It also shows her personal experience of persecution. Do they do this practice to anybody else? Whether she's received threats or etc. Okay, the fourth section shows if Jane Doe approached the state authorities for help or protection. So here you might include if you went to the police about your persecutor. If not, why didn't you? Did you go to other places for help? For example, a women's shelter, guidance counselor, church, human rights group. So in this case, Jane Doe went to her math teacher. What did this person do? For instance, did they threaten you, tell you not to tell anyone, threaten to report you, help you? If they helped you, what did they do? In this case, Jane Doe's math teacher helped her to leave the country. Okay, so in this fifth section of Jane Doe's Bach narrative, you see she establishes that she has no in-flight alternative. So 1, she states why there's nowhere in her country where she can find protection. She establishes that the same conditions exist throughout the entire country. You can state whether your persecutor was looking for you. You can establish other reasons for why you can't go to another part of the country. Okay, in the sixth section, Jane Doe describes how she left the country. How did you leave the country? You can share whether you got a visa or you used the help of a smuggler. You can state whether you had to get illegal documents in order to leave the country. Did you come to Canada on a straight flight, or did you stop over in another country before coming? If you stopped in another country, you're going to have to explain why you didn't seek refugee protection there. If you stopped in the United States, you're also going to have to explain why you didn't make a refugee claim there. Jane Doe states when she left her country of origin. She states when she entered Canada. You can also state why you chose Canada to make a refugee claim. Okay, guys, this is a fairly simple and straightforward basis of claim narrative, and it covers all the bases you need to cover in order for it to be a successful claim. Now, for a lot of people, your narrative may not be quite as simple. Maybe you had to leave behind your child. Maybe you did stop over in another country like the United States, where there is a safe third country agreement. Maybe you had to use the help of a smuggler and travel on illegal papers. Maybe in your fright, you didn't go to authorities in your home country to ask for state protection. Or maybe your agent of persecution isn't as clear cut as it is in Jane Doe's hypothetical narrative. But whatever the circumstances, you need to try and explain all the information needed. So guys, that covers your basis of claim narrative and the information you need to include. Now, when it comes to other evidence you need to submit to the Immigration and Refugee Board, we covered that in part 1. Evidence that you need includes country conditions and human rights reports or news reports, the need for affidavits or testimonies of other witnesses, the fact that an expert witness could be beneficial. But something else you're going to need to submit is your personal identity information. These are things like your birth certificate, your education, your marriage certificate. If you have any children, you need their birth certificates. Proof of involvement or belonging to a persecuted social group, like a diagnosis from a doctor that you have a mental illness or HIV/AIDS, hospital records if you were treated for any physical injuries due to persecution or torture, police reports if you ever reported your persecutors. So guys, these things need to be submitted to the Immigration and Refugee Board as well. You submit copies, but also you should keep the originals and bring them to your hearing in case the judge wants to inspect your original documents. So guys, that basically covers part 2. If you'd like to watch an example of a refugee hearing, you can watch this video on YouTube. The link is in the description. It is conducted in the US, but it's very similar to how the Immigration and Refugee Board of Canada conducts their own hearings. So guys, I hope this was helpful. This was part 2 of making a successful refugee claim in Canada. You can watch part 1 at this link, which is also in the description. Okay, so see you guys next time, and God bless.